What if I told you that the miracles written in the Bible were only a fraction of what Jesus actually did? What if the blind who saw, the sick who were healed, the dead who rose were far more numerous than Scripture ever recorded? The Gospel of John ends with a sentence so powerful, so unsettling, that it has echoed across 2,000 years. Jesus did many other things as well. If every one of them were written down, I suppose that even the world itself could not contain the books. So the question is not whether miracles were left out. The question is, where did the rest go? Tonight, we journey beyond the familiar pages of the New Testament into ancient memories, early Christian traditions, and forgotten writings preserved by believers who lived closer to the time of Christ. These are not scriptures, they are not doctrine, but they reveal something undeniable. Wherever Jesus went, he was remembered as a man of terrifying authority and overwhelming compassion. Even his enemies never denied the wonders. Before we continue, understand this clearly. The accounts you are about to hear come from ancient non-canonical writings, early Christian texts that were never included in the final New Testament. They are historical traditions, not inspired scripture. We share them not to replace the Bible, but to explore how the earliest believers remembered Jesus outside the gospel record. And with that understanding, we begin. Ancient tradition says Jesus did not grow into power slowly. Power followed him from the beginning. One early account tells of the child, Jesus, playing near a stream on the Sabbath. He gathered clay, formed 12 small birds, and set them before him. When the elders accused him of breaking the law, Jesus clapped his hands, and the birds came alive. They lifted into the air and disappeared into the sky. Another story says a water jar shattered on the ground. Instead of letting the water spill, the child Jesus gathered it inside his cloak. Not a drop was lost. People watched in silence. They did not know how to explain what they were seeing. These traditions do not soften Jesus. They show authority before restraint. A boy who ruined his work collapsed lifeless. A teacher who struck him fell dead instantly. Fear spread through the village, and then Jesus spoke again. Life returned. Children rose. Breath came back into lungs. In one account, a boy fell from a rooftop. The crowd accused Jesus. Jesus lifted him up and commanded him to speak. "Did I push you?" the boy answered. "No, he didn't harm me." Judgment bowed to mercy. Power yielded to compassion. Another ancient record speaks quietly. No drama, no spectacle. Jesus planted a single grain of wheat. At harvest, the yield was beyond measure. Then the sick came, the wounded followed. The text says simply, all who had diseases were healed. No names, no numbers, just restoration. As Mary and Joseph fled with the child, danger surrounded them. Wild beasts emerged, lions, panthers, wolves. Instead of attacking, they bowed. They walked beside the family, like guardians. Mary grew weary with hunger. A palm tree stood tall, unreachable. The child, Jesus, spoke. The tree bent its crown. Fruit fell into Mary's hands. From its roots, a spring burst forth in the desert. An angel carried a branch into paradise. The journey that should have taken weeks ended in a single day. In Egypt, temples were filled with idols. As Jesus entered one city, the statues collapsed. Demons fled screaming. A child tormented by an evil spirit was delivered. Through water, touched by Jesus' presence, robbers planned an attack, then fled after hearing the sound of an invisible army. Another child was thrown into fire. The flames went cold. Jesus walked on. Ancient tradition says, when Jesus was born, a cloud of blinding light filled the cave. Time itself paused. A woman who doubted reached out her hand, and it withered. When she repented and touched the child again, her hand was healed instantly. The message was unmistakable. This child was not ordinary. One ancient account says when Jesus rose from the dead, he didn't rise alone. Graves opened. Holy ones appeared in Jerusalem. Even the underworld shook. Hell itself confessed, "We have never received one like him." Later Jewish writings accused Jesus of sorcery. They tried to explain the miracles away, but they never denied them, because something undeniable had happened in history. Yet with all these wonders, the Bible records only what was necessary. Because the greatest miracle was not the clay birds, not the palm tree, not the falling idols. It was this: God became flesh. He suffered. He died. And he rose again. The miracles were signs. The cross was the message. The empty tomb was the final proof. The world could not contain the books that tell his story, but eternity will never forget his name. As we enter this Christmas season, we remember that we are not just celebrating a holiday. We are celebrating a person, not a tradition, not a story, not a myth, but Jesus Christ, the one whose life shook history, whose miracles still echo through time, and whose love changed the world forever. Whether written in Scripture or remembered in ancient tradition, every sign points to the same truth: God came near. If this journey has stirred your heart, if it has reminded you who Jesus truly is, then stay with us. Subscribe to the Bible Stories portal for powerful cinematic journeys into the life of Christ, the Scriptures, and the stories that shaped our faith. And as we celebrate Christmas, may we look beyond the lights and the songs and return our hearts to the miracle of his coming. Jesus Christ, the greatest gift the world has ever known.